All right. So I troll around on YouTube a lot, and I've recently come across a lot of videos about coming off of opiates, just the struggles of opiate addiction, Suboxone and methadone therapy, just different methods, and a lot of the methods or methods in the videos are good. They're good advice. There's a lot of good advice, and there's a lot of good support there. And I've actually been trying to be supportive to different people that actually contact me. Um, and I have some basic things that I tell them the advice because I have been through all of that. Struggled with opiate addiction for 10 years, and the hardest part for long-term addicts and myself was pills and heroin, and then Suboxone for a very long time. Uh, And for someone like myself on a long term, especially long term, long acting opiate addiction, uh, the initial detox is pretty bad, but it's the post acute withdrawal symptom that really causes people to relapse. So, anyways, there's a few things that I found out, and you can go to opiateaddictionsupport.org, I believe, maybe .com. And there's a guy there, David Finch, Michael Finch, something like that. And I got a lot of this stuff from him, and it turns out that it's absolutely the best advice I've ever received anywhere, as far as taking care of the anxiety and depression and a lot of the cravings. And the basic idea is this: I hate long YouTube videos that are long-winded, but the basic idea is that during your recovery, uh, people give you advice like exercise and diet, good diet, and as much exercise as possible. And this is true. This is absolutely probably. I mean, this is the best thing you can do. Be active, try and socialize, and be around loved ones. Another thing is, get back into old hobbies that you've neglected since your opiate use. That's something that can really reinvigorate the spark for life. But undoubtedly, you're going to have some post-acute withdrawal symptoms on any kind of long-term addiction and recovery. And so, certain supplements you can take along with a healthy diet, and these are only enhancing the effects of exercise and healthy diet. They may fill in the gaps in an unhealthy diet, but there's something that you need excessive amounts of supplemental doses of during opiate recovery. And they help your brain get its dopamine and basically all its neurotransmitter systems back in order. And this can help with any kind of addiction, but my case is opiates. That's what my experience is in. So, anyways, here I'm going to set up all my bottles real quick. I'm actually missing some, but the two main things are tyrosine, L-tyrosine or N-acetyltyrosine, and DLPA, and these are your basic precursors for adrenaline, norepinephrine, dopamine, maybe a couple other things. And taking those two things can help you tremendously. Getting your dopamine systems back in order is going to help you the most out of anything else you can do. Exercise helps with that, healthy diet, obviously. But these two supplements, tyrosine and DLPA, are the two direct precursors for dopamine, along with some other precursors for other neurotransmitters that you also find useful. But these are the two best ones. And now, aside from that, you can take GABA, which a lot of people say it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, which may be true, which is fine, but it does cause CNS effects, and it helps greatly with restless legs. Also, kind of helps with alcohol addiction too, reduces cravings. Um, if you're coming off a long-term Suboxone or methadone or even heroin or oxycodone or pills or anything like that, another thing that isn't really mentioned on YouTube too much, although it's all over Reddit and other places, is loperamide, which is just an antidiarrheal that you can buy over the counter. It's suggested 2 milligrams at a time, 8 milligrams tops per day, and at that dosage, it will help with any kind of stomach problems you have during your withdrawal. But at slightly higher doses, some people take hundreds of milligrams, and I do not recommend that. But at slightly higher doses, say 30 milligrams a day, it will relieve 90% of your opiate withdrawal symptoms because it is itself an opiate. It just doesn't efficiently cross the blood-brain barrier, but taking what they call mega doses, which is 30 milligrams, which is a little bit more than 3 times, I guess, of the daily recommended dosage. But it's not harmful. The the lethal dosage, the LD50 of this is like miles above that. So there's nothing dangerous about it other than the fact that it is itself mildly addictive. So it can only be used in the same way that you'd say use Suboxone or methadone for a quick 5-day, 7-day taper or something like that. You can use loperamide the same way. As a matter of fact, it works pretty much just as well. It's not quite as euphoric as Suboxone. There's no real euphoria to speak of. But as far as just reducing or eliminating all of your opiate withdrawal symptoms, loperamide will work. It just depends on the dose you need. If you start taking doses in excess of 40, 50, 60 milligrams to relieve your symptoms, then you might, consider find another option. But for most people, loperamide works absolutely fantastic. And if you use it responsibly, it's a lifesaver. A lot of people know about kratom. That's decent. I think loperamide's a better option for withdrawal symptoms long term, and that's just because I'm not a fan of using short-acting opioids to withdraw from anything from other short-acting opioids. They are decent for coming off a short, say 2-week session of Suboxone during your main taper. Any residual Suboxone withdrawals you may have, which will be very mild and pretty much unnoticeable, that's the time to take something like kratom or kratom or whatever. Because you could take that for 2 or 3 days until the Suboxone or methadone or whatever long-acting opioid you're on works itself out of your system. And the couple of days that you're on the kratom, that won't develop any tolerance. It's really the only use for it, though. As far as detox goes, there's plenty of other uses, I'm sure. Anyways, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of other things here, too. This is getting into a topic for a different video, but it's nootropics. And I've found personally that they help me greatly. After the first couple months of sobriety, you're going to go through the post-acute withdrawal symptoms. After about 6 months to a year, you're going to be completely over all of that. And you're basically going to feel like better than you have since before you started with the opiates at all. And there's a lot of things that you can take to help with that. Just basically, the nootropics are essentially non-toxic and for the most part non-addictive and all legal drugs that enhance things like your memory, your verbal fluency, social anxiety, which is something that can really help you reintegrate into a social life, a productive life, motivation, low mood, all things like that. And I have quite a few of them. And to be honest with you, this is probably for another video. But nootropics is something else that is very useful, and I think that a lot of people could benefit from that, but I'll probably save that for another video. Maybe this one will get some kind of feedback. I don't know if anyone will see it. Anyways,